Hi friends, Pastor Christina here. Thanks for joining us here on our YouTube channel. We want to let you know that you're always welcome to join us in person at our worship service at First Presbyterian Church, 410 2nd Avenue, Sterling, Illinois, 9:30 a.m. We're open every Sunday. So we hope that if you can, you'll come and join us in person. But at any rate, if you can't be with us in person, we're glad that you've come to see us on YouTube. We have a special series the next 4 weeks on the topic of do justice. And after this video, you'll see a video I did with my friend Jen Curran, who's helping us learn American Sign Language for the Bible verse that is our theme verse, Micah 6:8. Micah 6:8 asks the question. It says, God has told you what is good, and what does the Lord require of you? And the answer to that question is to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with God. So for 4 weeks, we'll have a series on how do we think about ways to do justice the way that God has directed us. And we'll have, the first one will be about seeing injustice. The second week on October 22nd will be check your prejudice. The third week of the series is about speaking up, and the fourth week is about doing the work. So we're so glad that you've come to join us. If you'd like to support our ministry, you can do so by going to our website, www.firstpresbyteriansterling.org, and clicking on the donate button. You can mail a contribution in to 410 2nd Avenue in Sterling 61081. Or if you'd like to set up an ongoing, continuing donation, you can call the church office at 815-625-0452. However you'd like to give, it would be much appreciated. We would use it well. And we would also appreciate your prayers and your continuing support of our ministry in the ways that you do your work of justice and love. So thanks for being here. Remember, as always, that you are worthy and you are loved and you are enough. Hi, friends. Christina Berry here from First Presbyterian Church. And this is our video for our series on doing justice. And I invited my wonderful friend Jen Curran here to come and join us, because Jen is going to help us learn a verse from the Bible using American Sign Language. We're not going to learn every single word of the entire verse. We're going to learn the most important words of the verse Micah 6:8. And that verse is a verse that asks us, it says, God has shown you what's good, and what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with God. And we're going to learn those words in American Sign. We're going to learn just a little bit at a time as we go along, and Jen will help us learn each sign for each phrase, and then we'll put it all together so you'll be able to do these signs as well. So our first phrase, Jen, is God has shown you what is good. Okay. So the sign for God, I'm going to try to follow along too.
So I am left-handed, so hopefully that doesn't confuse people, but you use your dominant hand and you kind of like up to God, and then you bring it down like in a twist.
In a twist.
So
your palm faces out. God.
Yep.
God. All right. And
then again, even in American Sign Language, we do not sign every like verbatim word. So we're God has shown like out. Yeah.
Oh, out. Yep. So like I'm showing you something. Like, look at this.
You're going to point to your non-dominant hand.
Okay.
And then bring it out.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Shown and then
good.
Good. So flat hands, one comes from your chin down to your other hand.
Good.
Good.
All right.
Yeah.
So the phrase would be,
God has shown
you
good.
What is good.
Yes.
Great. Okay. So the next phrase is, and what does the Lord require of you?
Okay, so then when we do that what question, it's just like what, and your kind of like shoulders are up a little bit, and you're kind of just shaking your palms up. So like what has the Lord, so this is the sign for L, the letter L,
okay.
And we're gonna go from your opposite shoulder down to your waist.
Down to your waist. Lord.
So Lord.
Lord. Kind of like a sash.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Lord.
So
okay.
what does the Lord require? So require is similar to the sign show, but instead of coming out, you're coming towards you.
Require.
What does the Lord require of, and instead of just pointing you, meaning one person, we're saying you as a
like
whole.
all y'all, right?
Yes, all y'all.
Okay.
Yes. So you.
Okay, so it would be what does the
Lord require from
of you? Yes. Okay. And then the next phrase is do justice.
Okay. So do, you're kind of in your hands and C's and kind of down, and we're doing back and forth. So do, and then justice. If you think about like justice is the weights.
The scales.
That
weigh evenly.
So this is your F finger. This is the sign for the letter F.
Okay.
So your first finger, your index finger to your thumb on both your hands, and then you just kind of turn it up. Justice. So do justice. All right. And then love kindness. So love, and then kindness is flat hand to flat hand, and you're kind of going forward.
Kind of like
kindness,
like a caress or a petting someone.
Yes. It's also the same sign for nice. Like to be nice.
I like that.
Kindness, nice. That's all that's saying.
Love, kindness, and then walk humbly with God. So when we walk, flat hands palms facing down, and you're kind of back and forth like you're walking. Okay. Walk, and then humbly. This was a sign I just learned myself. Okay. Humbly. So first index finger to your shh, and then humbly. Humbly. And we already learned God, so it's humbly. And then I would say, like you're gonna point up, God, and then kind of like you're together with God. Yes. Okay. So walk humbly, with God. I like it. Because you're like next to each other. That's so great. Yeah. So now can we do the whole thing all the way through? Sure. Okay. So you want me to read the phrases, or we're just going to do it? Read the phrases. All right. Yes. God has shown you what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly. Sorry. Walk humbly with God. That's so wonderful. Thank you so much. You're welcome. We can say thank you. Thank you. Like good was palm to palm, but thank you is just one hand out. Thank you. Thank you. And then you're welcome is just down from the chin. You're welcome. All right. Happy to help. We are so appreciative. Yes. Thanks a lot. Sure. All right, you can see yourself on YouTube now if you want. Ooh, exciting. All right, friends. Thanks so much. Bye. Bye. All right. My soul cries out with a joyful shout of the God of my heart is great, and my spirit sings of the wondrous things that you bring to the ones who wait. Perfect your sight on your servant's life, my weakness you do. Our scripture reading today is one of the more well-known stories of Jesus. At least the punchline is very well known. Jesus has gone up to Jerusalem from Galilee to join the disciples. They had gone ahead of him for the Feast of Booths, which is called Sukkot. And this is a 7-day celebration of harvest. It's one of the pilgrimage festivals when those who could were commanded by Torah to make a pilgrimage to go up to the temple in Jerusalem. Sukkot stands out for the way it's celebrated even today with the construction of a sukkah, which is a temporary shelter outside. It's the end of the agricultural year in Israel and the end of the annual cycle of readings in Torah. For us, it would be similar to the end of the lectionary readings when you start over with the new year. Jesus had originally declined to accompany his friends to Jerusalem because of his growing unpopularity with certain religious leaders there. But at the last minute, he goes, almost undercover, to join them. And this reading finds him coming to the temple where he will teach. So let's listen for God's word to us in John 7:53 through 8:11. Then each of them went home, while Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. Early in the morning, he came again to the temple. All the people came to him, and he sat down and began to teach them. The scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery, and making her stand before all of them, they said to him, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the very act of committing adultery. Now in the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now what do you say?" They said this to test him so that they might have some charge to bring against him. Jesus bent down and wrote with his finger on the ground. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, "Let anyone among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." And once again, he bent down and wrote on the ground. When they heard it, they went away, one by one, beginning with the elders. And Jesus was left alone with the woman standing before him. Jesus straightened up and said to her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" She said, "No one, sir." And Jesus said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go your way, and from now on, do not sin again." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. There's another version of this story, you know. Jesus confronts the crowd out to stone the woman caught in adultery. He looks angrily and sorrowfully at the mob that's gathered, and he says, "You who are without sin, cast the first stone," and then a rock goes whizzing right past his ear. Jesus looks out at the crowd and says, "Mom." This past week, I had the privilege of working with this year's Sauk Valley Leadership class again. I've been with them several times in the past to talk about diversity, but this time I was there to lead a class with my friend David Helmick on ethical leadership. David invited me to lead that class with him, and we had 2 engaging hours on the subject of ethical leadership with 17 emerging leaders in the Sauk Valley. And we had a great time. We thought about what it means to be an ethical leader, who we learned that from, and what the challenges are. And part of the conversation was about the different types of ethics that we all apply, given any particular situation. Those 5 ethical frameworks are justice, care, professional, community, and critique. Since we're exploring biblical concepts of justice and the practice thereof, let's start with that ethic of justice. Ethical leaders are just. That is to say, they are fair and they apply the rules fairly. What applies to one applies to all. Our junior high principal said over and over and over, We can't say it without thinking of Mr. Evans. If we let you do that, we have to let everyone do that. But ethical leaders are also compassionate, and that's the ethic of care. They practice mercy and apply the rules fairly. They consider the context and the situation and try to understand. So most of us are familiar with those ethics of justice and care. We understand there's a balance between rule-keeping and mercy. And with professional ethics, most of us grasp that professions have codes of ethics. There's a whole group of scholars that proposes an ethic of community, taking into consideration the moral demands of both the profession and the community. And then many scholars apply that fifth ethic of critique in their application of justice. That is, they agree that rules are rules, but then they pose the question, are the rules themselves just? The obvious example of an ethic of critique is that of resistance to Jim Crow laws and to legal segregation. Those were laws, yes, but an ethical person would not be able to support them given how incredibly unjust those laws were. The same would go for restrictive covenants in housing or prejudices that are enshrined in organizational rules, the exclusion of women from leadership or ordination, for example, or policies of discrimination against LGBTQI folks. Those are unjust. Rules are rules. But what about unjust rules and rules that are applied unjustly? In this story from the Gospel of John, which was more than likely a much later addition to the text, we see Jesus, who's already in conflict with local religious leaders. And they bring this woman before him, not in the interest of pursuing justice, but in order to test him and look for a charge to bring against him. They claim that in the law, Moses commanded us to stone such a woman. But that is a lie. That is a lie. They know it, and Jesus knows it. Make no mistake, these fellows know what the law is. Leviticus says, both the adulterer and the adulteress shall be put to death. If we were talking about the just application of the law here, there would be two people standing in front of Jesus. So while this story is most certainly about grace and mercy, it is also a deeper examination of the application of justice. It is an example of the ethic of critique because that is what Jesus is doing when he bends down to write in the sand. He is offering up to them a nonverbal critique by refusing to engage with them. He's employing this tactic to indicate to them that he will not participate in their systemic and duplicitous injustice. So Jesus, faced with this dilemma in front of him, just bends down and writes in the dirt. Here's what I think of your application of justice, he was saying. I'm not even going to engage in this conversation. So by refusing to engage with them in this charade of justice, he's indicating he will not even dignify it with a response, but he's also not going to turn his gaze away from this woman. And he is not going to permit them to stone her to death. He is not going to keep silent in the face of injustice, tempting though that may be given their power and his vulnerability. So he utters that great response. Let anyone among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her. They don't have an answer to this, so they walk away. They'll be back, of course, because guys like this never give up. But for now, they walk away. And then Jesus stands up
and he looks at the woman. He looks at the woman and he really, truly sees her. Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? No one, sir. Then neither do I condemn you. Go your way. From now on, do not sin again. We like this story a lot, especially the part with Jesus' snappy comebacks and that zinger at the last. We can imagine those who are there accusing the woman, excusing themselves or justifying themselves or somehow turning themselves into the victims of the story. If Jesus had tried to engage in an argument with them. You've been in those conversations, I'm sure, where some person brings up an issue and states their position, and the other person points out the flaws or contradictions in their position, and then the first person responds with whataboutisms or personal attacks. One person says this, the other person says that, and the first person says, well, you're just, and then the argument devolves into attack. Or one person claims a certain thing is a certain way, and the other person shows them the data to the contrary, and they dismiss the data and say, well, I'm entitled to my opinion. If you answer their questions, they deflect you. If you don't answer them, they assume they've won the argument. We've all encountered people whose personal beliefs differ from our own, and who claim that our embrace of all people excludes them. And in a sense, welcoming the marginalized makes a statement about those who dislike or reject them. Everyone's welcome to be here, but rejection of any of God's children or any expressions of disgust or hatred of them are not welcome here, because it isn't just. Maybe the most important part of this story is that Jesus looks at this woman and he sees her. He really sees her. And by seeing her, he makes her visible to her accusers. And he makes the injustice visible as well. Seeing injustice and pointing it out is an enormously important practice. And that is why Christians are called upon to be active in the world. We can't just turn our heads and refuse to engage with injustice, not if we're truly following Jesus. Nor can we merely comfort the victims and ignore the injustice that has victimized them. This makes some people uncomfortable. It makes a lot of people uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable sometimes. Not against justice, but they prefer that we just shut up about it. They want to welcome all, but they don't want to go overboard. So they hardly approve of projects like money bags, but they don't want to talk about child poverty or food insecurity in our community. They never defend segregation, but they'd rather not talk about institutionalized racism or white privilege. They want to support the mental health of teens, but they don't want to know about the suicide rate of transgender teens or offer all gender bathrooms. It can make us uncomfortable, this practice of seeing injustice. When we see it and we apply an ethic of critique to what we observe, we know that as Christians, it is incumbent upon us to address it. Frankly, it's much easier to ignore if it isn't affecting us personally. It's easier to be quiet. It's easier to be quiet and avoid offending the Pharisees. It's easier if we could just please everybody by never confronting wrong. It's easier at first, anyway. But then we learn that keeping quiet means participating in the injustice, and we learn that it's really impossible to please everyone anyway, and we realize that some people are offended by the fact that we strive to do justice love mercy, and walk humbly with God. Our study material for this series says, doing justice is making the choice to lean into our discomfort and strive for a better world, refusing to tune out the uncomfortable parts of reality and our own complicity in unjust systems. If we want to do justice, we have to want to see, to learn, and to understand. Jesus stood up, and he looked at the woman, and he saw her. We like to think that the law is written in stone and rules are rules. And then there stands Jesus, seeing us like he saw the woman that day and did not condemn her. So may God bless us with the eyes to see injustice. And may God bless us with the wisdom to know what to do and what to say and how to continue our work. May the winds of the Spirit blow through our lives and our community until poverty, oppression, exclusion, and injustice are erased like so many words written in the sand, blown away by the winds of God's justice. Amen.
Justice, Savior to all, come to rescue the weak and the poor, chose to serve and not be served. Jesus, you have called us, freely we receive now, freely we will give. We must go to feed the hungry, stand beside the broken. We must go, stepping forward, keep us from just singing, move us into action. We must go. Send us out.